Hey, are you tired of the left and right politics? I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button, ring the little bell, and prepare to free your mind from the traditional red versus blue. So here is a sign of the times. The sign of the times is that yesterday there was a mass shooting in San Jose, California. 9 people dead at last count. The country is just coming out of a pandemic and wondering where it originated. And yet, early this morning, when I did my read-in at the Washington Post, among other places, the #1 story at the Washington Post was none of the above. It was this: Trump tried to end Spygate probe of New England Patriots by offering bribe. Late senator's son says. There's then reference to this as an ESPN report. Indeed, it is a report by Don Van Natta Jr. and Seth Wickersham that is being widely reported on and covered in other media publications. And Don joins me now. Hey, Don, so glad to have you here. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michael. Always great to be with you.
So I remember you calling me on this story, and frankly, I've completely lost track of time. I don't know if it was a period of months. I don't know if it was a period of more than a year. What I do know is that Senator Arlen Specter, with whom I was very close, personal friend, a mentor of mine, a frequent radio guest, among the books that he authored is one that I'm holding in my hand called Life Among the Cannibals. And in Life Among the Cannibals, a memoir by Senator Specter, he talked about the New England Patriots and some of the cheating scandals in the past. And Don, I'm going to read from it to set this up. He spoke about an upcoming Boston trip. I decided to call Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots. I had heard what a great guy Bob Kraft was. He was an unlikely target, meaning for fundraising. In 2008, I had called for an independent investigation into the Patriots stealing opponents' signals, known as Spygate, dismissing the NFL commissioner's investigation as a whitewash. And then further along, page 275, on the signal stealing, a mutual friend told me that if I had laid off the Patriots, there'd be a lot of money in Palm Beach. I replied, I couldn't care less. How did that end up on your radar screen, given that the book came out several years ago? Talk to me about your work in this regard.
Well, Michael, you're right. That line is really the launching pad for this particular story. And that line emerged in work that I did with Seth Wickersham at ESPN back in 2015 during the Deflategate scandal. So we actually looked to see why the NFL was so tough on Tom Brady and suspending him for 4 games for those deflated footballs 5 years ago. And in researching that, we went and found out that it was actually a makeup call for Spygate. There were NFL owners that felt that the commissioner, Roger Goodell of the NFL, had given basically a pass to the New England Patriots on Spygate, and they were not going to let that happen again on Deflategate, which is why Brady was hammered in the way he was by Goodell. That particular line in Arlen Specter's book emerged in our research for that story, and it stuck with me. I wanted to know who that mutual friend was. Who was this person who offered what was tantamount to a bribe to a sitting senator to make the Spygate investigation that Arlen Specter was pursuing go away? And quite frankly, it's something that we've pursued for years. You and I talked about it, I believe, again last fall as we were getting closer to finding out what actually happened here. But it's something that always bothered me as a journalist. Who made this offer? And finally, we know who it was.
My recollection is that I was of zero value to you in this story, other than to tell you that I had been in the presence of Donald Trump and Arlen Specter. That I remember well. I have the photograph to prove it, taken at Trump Tower several years ago, when Specter was the guest of Trump for a fundraiser.
That's right. They were very good friends. Arlen Specter and Donald Trump were friends going back to the 1980s. Trump was a supporter of Specter with campaign money, but they were buddies. And even in 2008, Michael, the year that Specter was creating all these headlines and all these headaches for the NFL with his one-man investigation in the Senate of how the NFL managed the Spygate investigation, because Arlen Specter, the former prosecutor from Philly, viewed it as a cover-up. He felt that the NFL basically handed down punishments to the New England Patriots and to Bill Belichick before they ever investigated anything, and even before they reviewed the evidence and destroyed the evidence. So that bothered him. Of course, he was also an Eagles fan and didn't like what happened in 2005 when the Patriots beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl and felt there was cheating there as well. And so he really put a scare, Arlen Specter, in the NFL and in Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, in this investigation that he did. And during that year in 2008, Specter and Trump had dinner at Mar-a-Lago in January of 2008, we found out. And then in March of 2008, Trump was a co-host of a book party in Philadelphia for Specter. So Trump is in the frame with Specter while Specter is investigating Spygate. And as we found out through our research, by talking to Specter's son, Shane Specter, in fact, this offer that Specter refers to in his book that you just read was made by none other than Donald Trump.
I can't attest to that, but I can attest to how hot Senator Specter was about the Patriots cheating. Don, it was February 1, 2008, one of Senator Specter's many, many appearances on my radio program. As I recall, this was Super Bowl week of 2008. Here's a 50-second clip of him talking about this issue.
Michael, the fine was a light slap on the wrist for what is involved here.
Well, it was the harshest in NFL history.
That doesn't amount to a whole hell of a lot, Michael. The harshest in history. They take away a draft choice and they find the money. And what I think was of concern to a lot of people, including me, was Belichick's response. When he was asked by the media, he brushed it off as if it wasn't worthy of a reply. There was no contrition. There was no apology. It was, don't bother me.
What do you hear in that, Don Van Natta?
A lot of frustration by Arlen Specter that the Patriots got away with something that they should not have gotten away with. I know from Specter's own papers, his own comments publicly, his writings about this, that he felt that the NFL covered up something that they didn't want to know the answer to. They did not want to know how many games were affected by a spying operation that lasted years. Not just one incident. There was one incident that was caught in September of 2007, but Specter believed, and I think he was right, that this went on for years. And the NFL had no interest in trying to find out exactly how many games might have been affected by this. I think this deeply offended Senator Specter, which is why he went on this one-man crusade in 2008 after doing that interview with you on February 1st of that year in trying to get to the bottom of it, and felt he was stonewalled not only by the NFL, but more specifically by the New England Patriots, who made nobody available to be interviewed in his office as he was trying to investigate this and get to the bottom of it.
So it's a very detailed report that you published at ESPN. I'm only scratching the surface, but at its core, the premise is this: that Senator Specter was in dogged pursuit of the Patriot cheating scandals, and that Donald Trump attempted to call him off that scent by promising there'd be, quote, a lot of money in Palm Beach. That's the premise, right?
That's not just the premise. That's what we were told on the record by Shane Specter. Now, as you know, Senator Arlen Specter died in 2012. He drops this tantalizing piece of information in his book that you just read. Shane Specter, for the first time, Arlen's son, who's a Philadelphia attorney, told us on the record that his father told him that it was Donald Trump that went to Arlen Specter and said there would be campaign cash available to you from Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, if you drop your Spygate investigation. Now, to be very clear, Donald Trump denies this. A spokesman told us this week that they don't even know what we're talking about. Robert Kraft, for his part, has said to us through a spokesman that he never asked Donald Trump to make such an offer. But Shane Specter is very clear and on the record saying this is what his father told him, that it was Donald Trump who offered campaign cash for Specter to drop this. Now, we know that Donald Trump was very good friends with Robert Kraft as well at the time. Whether or not this was an attempt by Trump to ingratiate himself with Kraft or Tom Brady, I don't know that. I can't get into that motivation. But certainly, as our story lays out, there's a lot of links between Trump, Kraft, Belichick, and Brady in this time frame. And Trump was certainly looking to please them in multiple ways. And this, according to Shannon Specter, was one of them.
Don, speaking of links, full disclosure, Shannon is one of my closest of friends, 30 plus years, introduced me to my wife, and I am affiliated with his law firm. We are thick as thieves, as they say. I want that said.
Okay.
Disclosure number two. Last night, 11:45 p.m., the following email was sent to me, quote, "Perhaps your friend Shannon the lawyer is familiar with the term hearsay. He has nothing. This is bullshit. Just as a pass for a polygraph test on Russian collusion, I can pass one on this. He can't. Don't tell me they're not admissible in court. The FBI and DOJ uses them regularly. I like Shannon, but he hates Trump and he is full of shit." By the way, do you know who the author of that email was to me at 11:45 p.m. last night?
No idea, Michael. Tell me.
That would be one Roger Stone.
Well,
Your
Roger
reaction?
My reaction to that is Roger Stone was given plenty of opportunities by me to talk on the record about this story. He declined all of those attempts. If Shannon Specter was motivated by politics to make up this story, I mean, I don't know that to be true. That's what Roger Stone seems to be alleging there. Stone had every opportunity to be very, very clear to talk with me about this story. I gave him multiple opportunities and he declined all of them.
Okay, so assuming arguendo that what you report is true, that the person who promised Senator Specter there'd be a lot of money in Palm Beach if he would lay off the Patriots was Donald Trump, the critical question becomes, was that legal?
Well, that's a great question. Shannon Specter told us for his part that he felt that it was not a bribe, that it was tantamount to a bribe in using his language, but that it was not a bribe. Now, we talked to multiple campaign finance experts about this. We quote a Republican campaign finance law expert on the record who says he believes that it is a bribe, saying you can't go up to a sitting senator and say there's going to be some campaign cash for you in exchange for dropping an investigation that people would like to see go away. Now, a couple of other campaign finance experts said it's a little more of a gray area there, but it certainly looks to be a cash offer in exchange for some official act by a sitting senator. And as I say, there's a split there among the campaign finance experts, but the one that we quoted on the record, who is a Republican, by the way, said that he believes it is a bribe.
One reaction, if I may, you can say many things about Senator Specter. He was certainly controversial during the course of his career. He enjoyed being controversial, by the way. He was many things, but he was not corruptible. He had integrity like no one I've ever met before. And I do believe that I know that Donald Trump had a relationship with Arlen Specter. If he understood Specter, he would have recognized that this is not a guy who, for any amount of money, campaign or otherwise, is going to do something that is being pressed upon him. That kind of belies that Trump would be the guy to say, there'll be a lot of money in Palm Beach if you'll do this.
Possibly, Michael. I mean, again, getting into the motivations of what Trump would do or wouldn't do. I mean, Trump has a long record here of what he has done in public life. He has said multiple times that campaign money is a way to get politicians to do things for you. He said it during a debate in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's a deep public record of Trump saying he used campaign money to get things done with politicians. Whether or not he knew Specter well enough to know that he would be pushing on a closed door there, I have to leave that up to your listeners and others to make a judgment about that.
Final question, if I may, and thanks for being so gracious with your time. Are you surprised at the coverage that your story at ESPN is receiving? Did you have any idea?
I am a little surprised at how viral it's gone. I have to tell you, though, that this has been something that I have really wanted to get to the bottom of since the moment I saw that line in Specter's book, as I said, when we were looking at the Spygate, Deflategate connection with the Patriots 5 years ago. It's something that I really wanted to try to get to the bottom of. I went to the University of Pittsburgh, to the Arlen Specter papers in the archives there. There's all sorts of interesting connections between Specter and Trump that we found, and some of them I laid out here. There's more in our story. And, you know, finally, Shane Specter said what he said. You know, Roger Stone is denying it to you, interestingly, in an email the day our story runs, but would not even discuss this with me. And he's somebody who, of course, is a nexus between Arlen Specter. Remember, Roger Stone ran Arlen Specter's run for the presidency back in 1996, and Donald Trump. And he was somebody that I was, you know, and I've interviewed Stone in the past. He knows who I am. We have a long history together, and he would not talk with me about this, yet sent you that 11:45 p.m. email last night. But to answer your question, I'm a little bit surprised, but not entirely, only because anything with Donald Trump, I think, gets a lot of attention. And certainly with the Patriots and Spygate, it's one of the biggest scandals in the history of the NFL. The way the NFL handled it raised all sorts of questions, and still does to this day. And the fact that you have a former president now allegedly offering a bribe for that investigation to go away, I did anticipate there would certainly be some interest in it.
I give you great credit. I mean, it's a 360 some page book. One line intrigued you. On the signal stealing, a mutual friend told me that if I laid off the Patriots, there'd be a lot of money in Palm Beach, and everybody else missed it. You saw it and pursued it. Thank you so much, Don, for your willingness to come on and discuss this further. It is a fascinating story.
Thank you, Michael. Always great to be with you. Appreciate it.
You too.